out here on Ironic Radio Network, 8-Bit Bros. That's number 8. Then bit. Then bros. One word. I strongly encourage you to stay tuned for that. And if you want, they also have a Facebook page and a much better live show.
Much better.
Anyway, 8-Bit Bros, 8 p.m. Ironic Radio Network.
It's 8 o'clock, and you know what that means.
Oh, what's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Bros. It is the early edition. Very strange to say. Very strange to say. Well, with that being said, we have a great show planned for you. This is not a kid-friendly show. Adult language, adult content. Do the right thing, people. Put your kids in the closet.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah. Last early edition. Oh. I can understand what you were trying to say, Ryan, when you were saying it. Like, you know.
Isn't that very strange to say?
Right.
Like, I need to come up with a whole new shtick now to intro a show.
Right, I know. And there's the whole 8 o'clock thing, and we're going to have to work that out somehow. Yeah. 8-Bit Bros, Tuesday. I guess that was the big announcement, huh? We're moving. We're moving
on later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, later and earlier. She's right. I can't say she's wrong.
We're
later
moving on around.
Yeah. Wednesday, 7 to 9. Wednesday, 7 to 9. I'll be sure to announce that a few times, especially for all you. Look at these fucking listeners on the radio. What up, people? Definitely need to announce that a few other times. I don't see Ireland in here, and they're always in here, and a few others. But yeah, so Tuesday, Thursday, melded into a Wednesday.
It's the best of both worlds. It's both early and later. And it is like earlier in the day. So you can potentially go have drinks after.
True. That's kind of one of the reasons with, you know, everything opening back up slowly, but surely.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. People want to get out. We're going to give you a break. We're definitely going to give you a break. Center box gets a square. It's Ren.
What up, people?
Yep. To the left, me. Over here, web boy. That way. Way far right. 846 miles south. The one and only Thumping Loud. And in the Brady Bunch box up top, it's J7.
Hi.
J7.
Hello.
If you were in the middle, pointing straight up, that would make sense, Webb. One of these days, we're gonna get you on how to.
Somewhere over here.
Every time on video format, he's been the worst at pointing at people.
Yeah, but here's the crazy thing is, in 4 years that we've been doing this, and 2.5 years that we've been doing video, he's never gotten it right, and now we're about to change it all up on him all over again. That he's going to be going like.
Isn't that the fun of it though? I mean, you guys like when I'm the fucking moron most of the time. You hate when I play devil's advocate, but
just go. They're over there.
Yeah, right. Like 3-finger crinkle claws, 3-finger crinkle claws.
Yeah, they're over there.
All right, there are definitely a few things I want to touch on tonight. I guess I want to take as rapid fire as possible.
Me too.
Yeah, since we're short tonight. Out here like 9:10, something like that, 9-ish. Anyway, we talked about this a couple of shows ago. maybe like 10 or 15. I think we titled it Censorship in America, and here we are revisiting it all over again.
What?
Pepe Le Pew.
Censorship in
Oh,
America.
Jesus.
Dr. Seuss. Well, I'm curious.
It's not just that, but you can bolt on Disney because Disney today
Slapping the
just
shit on.
said they're pulling Dumbo, Peter Pan, and the Aristocats for, ready, racist stereotypes.
Yeah, but whoa. They're not pulling it. They removed it from the child's account. You could still watch it in the adult account, but it is slapped with the label on the front that says this depicts things that the world no longer believes in because of snowflakes. So here it is.
All right, there's a lot there.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I personally don't really care if Pepe Le Pew is not on TV because he promotes no means yes instead of no means no.
Right.
Somebody tell me what the fuck Joe Biden does then by hugging and sniffing women. And it's the Pepe Le Pew. It's the same fucking thing. Same fucking thing in my book. But I don't really care. I don't give a fuck if you take Woody Woodpecker off. But is any of this, is Pepe Le Pew that offensive? Does it really teach people no doesn't mean no?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, weren't we taught in schools about Don Quixote?
I mean,
I was
in relation to.
Yeah, but when's the last time you were in a history class? Okay.
But,
you don't. I mean, you gotta speak for what they're
Sure.
honestly teaching children now, and
okay, I get that. Yeah, that's true.
And you don't have kids at that level anymore.
That's true. That's true. I have no problem about transitioning into a new way of thinking. I agree with a lot of that.
Okay.
I agree with a lot of that. But I'm a little tired of having the past just beaten up on.
I'm more disappointed, not in the fact that they want to remove Pepe Le Pew, because if you look at the situation, yes, it was a very, very grotesque stereotype of a womanizing
French,
like hunting fucking character. Okay,
yeah.
And so so now it's also it's against the country as well as the masculinity. Yes. Okay, so now we double down on how offensive it is. It could have been used as a teaching moment in a film. Instead of they could have had his cat cancel him or re-educate him and evolve that character moving forward to something different.
I agree.
Instead of just eliminating the past and eliminating any history at all, which is something we've gotten bad about, is if we ignore it and if we just wipe it away, it goes away. And unfortunately, that's not the case.
No.
Right.
And we've seen more and more of that is not the case, that what happens. So here's another opportunity, I think, missed for us to educate and re-educate the entire population.
And this is exactly why I brought it up, because Thump, you are always 99% of the time the voice of reason on this show. And your answer was exactly what I was going for. It was a lost opportunity to take something that, was acceptable.
Well, most people would agree is a highly negative behavior.
Yeah. Pepe Le Pew's 1945 is when the character started. 1945. It was a different.
I believe the plan was for that to be part of the film. I believe originally there was a scene in the film where Pepe Le Pew is in a bar and he's hitting on someone, and then apparently he gets beat up as a result because he's being disrespectful. And then I believe Bugs pulls out like an ethics clause for the filming of the movie that's like, actually, we don't allow this kind of behavior anymore. We're gonna have to remove you. And they like wheel him away or something. So I think originally the plan was for it to be addressed, and I think the movie went through several directors and they decided to just cut it. And then at some point Warner Brothers decided to just not include Pepe Le Pew on any future project.
Well,
but to Thump's
the way
point,
it's listed though, and this is another unfortunate thing that's been put out to the media, is LeBron cancels Le Pew
Media's in, man.
And
Look,
it's
there is
like,
no
hold
such
on,
thing as
whoa,
journalism
whoa,
anymore.
whoa. Y'all are
There's
really
no such
starting
thing
to
as
throw straws now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you want fucking news, go to Twitter, go to independent websites, mainstream media. It's not journalism anymore. It's I can't remember the term that was used, and I fucking it was dynamite. But it's just activism. Force-fed bullshit on any fucking channel. It's geared towards one side or the other. No one can look you straight in the face and tell you the fucking truth. Nobody.
I mean, I don't know. I feel
Well,
like I got
they
a
could,
pretty
but
balanced
it's they're not permitted to.
perspective.
Yeah.
You just have to consider the sources, right? Like, I mean, that unfortunately, that's something that should be taught in school. It's critical thinking. It's consider the source. Where's this coming from?
This is not a new issue, and we can actually take it back on film to World War II.
Sure.
For what we traditionally like to do on this show, we talk occasionally about stuff we're watching. I just watched on Netflix Five Came Back.
Oh, how was that?
And it's about the 5 directors that were the leading directors in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That essentially, like Stevens put together a plan that we should show the war.
Right, not the glamorization of it, but the war itself.
Because there was we were having trouble getting the people behind the idea of the fact that this was a threat, and Stevens saw that this was a serious threat that should be addressed and made aware of and dealt with. And so he puts this plan into D.C. Roosevelt bites on it and is like, well, you're right. So you end up with these 5 directors that essentially go to various parts of the war campaign and cover it in one way or another. And the stories that are told about their time over and things that were done to get the film in front of people, or that were done to make the films, or that were done to keep the films from people.
Right.
Like, all of these stories that are told is kind of in this modern sense of, like, the directors were not the kings. The financiers were the kings. And the directors were only ever the princes. They had no control. They were just there to be glorified.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
that's,
so,
and
that's what we're looking at here in this sense, where we say, well, Fox, their producers want their talent performing a certain way. That these personalities that they put in front of the camera are literally talking heads for them. That these are maybe not essentially everybody's personal opinions. I mean, sure, they lean to the side that they're on. It makes it a little easier to choke some of what they say down. But I'm sure to the level of being the villain that some of these people get put in by some of the comments that they are, I'm sure, instructed to make on these very constructed shows, that, you know, what you have is the opinion of a front office of what sells news, not the opinion of a news person who's trying to tell you the story.
It's modern world.
Yeah, but so it was but like I said, it's a continuous problem that we've apparently dealt with as far back as World War II.
Yeah.
If you go in, I highly recommend watching. You know, and 5 Came Back.
I just threw it right in my queue, right there in my watch list. First one.
But yeah,
I just threw it in there. As far as the Dr. Seuss thing, you fucking people on the internet, I swear to God, some of you are stupid.
Hey, Dr. Seuss is actually in 5 Come Back.
I really love how when you read about the whole thing, like, for me, like, I have all sorts of weird news alerts that come up.
Yeah.
And it was like, Dr. Seuss is canceled. And I was like, what? And then I read the story, and it's like, oh, it's like these 6 books that are not even
Well,
I also
the
thought it was hilarious how they knocked Trump Jr.
Yeah, the Mulberry Street book was very, very popular. I actually own that one myself. The other ones, I didn't even hear of half of them. But the problem I have with that story, and I'll let you finish up in a second, Thump, is fucking people in Facebook and the internet. The books weren't canceled. The
No, the book
family
just
decided these are just a little out there. I mean, I saw it on Mulberry Street with the Chinese guy, with the fucking hat on and the slanty eyes, and he's a Chinaman who eat a touchdown.
I think this is all. Man, it's hilarious. I really, honestly think this is all in relation to this Netflix show.
I'm gonna have to check it out. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely check it out.
Because to talk about Dr. Seuss in these books, well, there is a very specific part of Five Come Back that it talks about what his place was. Like there was this telling of a story done in animation that was only done for the troops, and that they were talking about how they didn't want to vilify the villains for life. They didn't want to vilify the people, so they didn't the racial stereotypes and epithets that were being thrown at Chinese and at the Japanese, unless the Germans, was one telling of how you were doing things. Then Hollywood was telling some of these directors, don't make these people the bad guy. You can have a bad guy, but you can't make the people the bad guy, because then we'll never be able to repair these relations on the other side of whatever's going on. And they talk about they talk about the characterizations, and specifically to Dr. Seuss being brought in for this animated series of Snafu.
Okay.
And he was the art director on Snafu, which was only for the troops, which could be racier and more villainous and more raunch.
Yeah, private
Snafu.
Yes, you can. I think you can find that right on fucking YouTube.
Possibly,
yeah.
But it wasn't meant for a general public, so it was allowed to be a little bit more risque. And with Dr. Seuss being the art guy behind it, you see it in the artwork, and then it attaches him to this artwork, which attaches him to these stories, which makes people go and review what he's done, which makes these books. Like, it could be something that happened during creating this story that the family goes, oh, we need to take a serious look at ourselves real quick.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, it's true. It's possible that was the impetus for the whole thing happening. But I also think they were going to reprint the books, and then they realized, oh, wait, let's not do this. Let's not do this.
Let's not do those books.
How about not only was it Dr. Seuss, but Chuck Jones was the director, and Mel Blanc did the voices, and Fritz Lang was involved also.
Oh, dude, it's a fucking all-star cast of animation fucking gods. But
Yep.
Yeah, dude. Like I said, some of the stories in this are just. You're like, holy crap! Like, who would have thought this level of thought was going into what they were doing back then?
Walt Disney had the first shot at it, but this other company beat him out.
Yeah. Warner Brothers ended up being the one that got it.
Yeah, it was through a different name company at the time. But anyway, yeah. I heard you say snafu and didn't hear the word private.
I didn't say it the first time.
Yeah, there's Home Front, and there's Operation Snafu, and there's a couple other ones too.
Yeah, but the originator of it was Private Snafu, and
Snafu, Situation Normal, all fucked up. That's what Snafu stands for, in case you didn't know that.
Even though that's not how they phrase it.
Well, no, it is. It was cleaned up for radio.
It was cleaned up for Netflix as well.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, the animation all fouled up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the cleaned up version for radio, and then the beginnings of television in the.
But the military men who saw the original presentation got
all fucked up.
All brunt of snafu. So
Yeah, there were quite a few in that series, all the way to like 1946 or some shit like that.
but there was a
What,
major discussion in what the softening of these projects would do to the people to be engaged in it, what the harshness of these things would do for
Right.
people to be engaged in it, and it was a whole lot of. I thought a bunch of brash people from the 1940s who didn't have social justice as a platform of any type.
Mm.
I went into it with the very hard stereotype of, well, this, uh, racism was at its, pinnacle because
Sure.
this is where you're looking at, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, no, you're free, but you're still not part of my society. Kind of, and it was that time period. I think that was even more so, fucking over the top.
I think that's another big issue that a lot of people overlook when it comes to racism and racism in this country. We were not we as in us sitting here. We as a country were taught racism in 1918 and 1940.
Yeah,
During two
pointed
wars.
at another people as responsible for a problem that we were dealing with.
Right.
And
Now,
it created a large amount of separatism in our country at that
and it
point.
goes-
All the way to the
and-
point of putting Japanese people in concentration camps.
Yeah,
But
in
their
this country,
their rationale behind it, well, it was funny. Their rationale behind it was one thing. They were like, sleeper cell type of people who could be in the country with the intent to cause bad.
Right.
But then they were even thinking about the other side of the war and going, we can't put propaganda out that makes these people bad.
Right.
The people bad, because then these people that are here that we know are good people will never be able to integrate themselves back into the society as a whole, because the plan was, after they had gotten them all separated for a minute, just to kind of like see what was going on and to filter them back out into towns around the country was what they said the plan was. And they were thinking of, on the other side of this, though, if we make these people so bad in the eyes of the rest of America, there's no way these people will ever be able to go to another town anywhere.
Right.
And so just the fact that they even had that kind of awareness to think about that was really surprising to me, because I thought it was just knee-jerk reaction of absolute hatred and no cares, no fucks given. But there was a thought that was there, and it was kind of surprising to see that even the thought was allowed to have any kind of room, because I didn't think that they were open for that type. My understanding of the time period is that kind of openness was not even a thing.
Back in
Right.
World War I, we dropped a ton of propaganda leaflets dropped out of fucking planes all across the countries that we were fighting with, letting them know that, hey, the citizens, you're good people.
Trying to win the country from within.
Yeah.
It was leaflets that we tried to win the people over.
We're coming here to fucking straighten your government out. So stand down, move out of the fucking way, and let us come through, and all's going to be good for you people in the next, 20 years from now.
That's kind of the situation we unfortunately find ourselves in right now, though, is somebody's wanting to straighten out our government.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because there is
I
a
think
strong possibility that we've overstepped our bounds.
With a lot of different countries.
Getting a little bit empirical, we are.
Yes, maybe a tiny bit.
There's so many issues faced with us, the people, and us as a country right now, and everyone. This so-called divide is going to be here for quite some time. It's quite some fucking time, because there's a lot of people pissed about different things. People think borders should be open. You got fucking people crashing through they knocked down, a good quarter of the fucking wall, crashing through it, to the point where 2 cars blew up and killed 12 people to try and get into the country, because, we're open borders, and, the first 11 million people are going to become citizens instantly. And, oh, by the way, we're going to, give you a tax break on your fucking kid deductions. You got a kid, we're going to give you $3,000 a year monthly. We're going to give it to you every month. I'm running across the fucking border for that money too.
Don't you need to be a citizen to get that?
Well, all you got to do is
If you're
just show
part of the
White
first
House.
11 million, I mean,
Yeah, part of the first 11
you
million,
got that
just-
part too. I mean, it's
Well, there's already 11
Show up at the
million
fenced-in
illegal
fucking
immigrants in the
capital.
country.
That's all you got to do is just show up at the fenced-in capital.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's nothing really different now than
We
it
built a
was.
fence around the country, but we built one around the fucking capital.
There's nothing different now than there was 4 years ago. It's just different people having different gripes.
right.
It's a cyclical thing. It's always going to be a cyclical thing. It's one of the beautiful things about this country, and one of the most annoying things about this country is with our two-party system that we have. It's such a large subset of people on either side that when you have one that has what they have, they're all happy. When you have that group that doesn't have what they had or have, they're not happy. And it's just, it goes back and forth. It's like a teeter-totter.
Yes.
And it's always going to be that way, and forever will be that way, even if you introduced a third party and it was a viable system with 3 strong parties. You'd have one group of people that are all happy, then you'd have 2/3 of the people that aren't happy.
2/3 of the country would be worse that way now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is
you-
the other
you frame it
the other
that way.
2/3 is not
Like-
necessarily going to team up against the other third, because there's enough polarization that third party wants to be itself, and that second party wants to be itself.
Well, not right now.
Not right now. Yeah, but then
not right now.
yeah, but then
I mean,
that becomes the
what do we
elimination
have?
of another third party, is what that is.
Right. The third party we have now has like a 7% control on the country. So the other 80, 90 something is still there. J7, you had a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess my question is, I don't really know what conservatives really think.
Me neither. I don't even know
Because,
myself.
because it just seems like
Why do I gotta do
a
labor?
bunch of dog whistles all the time.
Okay.
Like, I would-
okay. Okay.
I don't
But on the
disagree.
other side,
What-
you have all the conservatives that you don't understand that say the same thing. I don't understand how liberals can be this way. Insert comment here.
Exactly. So, what is your understanding of a conservative?
Every single time I encounter a conservative, well, maybe I don't know enough like sane conservatives. Maybe that's it.
Okay,
Like, every time I
independently of the
encounter-
individuals you know, what is your idea of a conservative? What is the understanding of a conservative? Not the people you know who are dingbats or the people you know that are intelligent. I'm not asking about personal people. I'm saying your understanding of the idea of being a conservative.
The idea, okay, so my understanding of a conservative person is someone that's about traditional values and about, I guess, yeah, that's it. That's it in a nutshell. Like somebody that's all about traditional values, that's like fiscally, you know.
God-given free will.
Okay,
Well-
hold on. I want to allow her to continue because I want to understand
no.
where her
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
process and where she's coming from, so we can maybe help
Yeah.
evaluate this conservative idea. And because what I want to do is I want to propose the idea that if this is your understanding of, they appreciate traditional values and fiscal responsibility.
Right. That's how I understand.
So
conservative.
would you understand liberals to be not that in this aspect then? That they would be more about shaking things up and just spending the money?
Not necessarily. Well, a liberal to me is somebody that is somewhat, yeah, somewhat ideologically opposed to that. So instead of traditional values, it's someone that is looking to do things differently or shake things up, and who doesn't mind spending the money to make that happen. Those are the two kind of like
so
very
that is your
personas
exactly.
for
That's
me.
what we're
Yeah.
that's all we were looking for because like when it comes down to understanding it, you have to start from a base of like, all right, so this is the idea that I have. A conservative to me coming into this situation is these two items, and that's all they are. Like at the root of what they are, you have to start. If you are a conservative, no matter what tree you branch off into after you become a conservative, it is because of the core traditional family and life values.
Six points of interest is the conservatives. Weren't half the people who wrote the Constitution and the Bill of Rights conservatives? If I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, they were. 6 points of interest for conservatives. I'll give them to you as quick as I can. That foremost among the transcendent values is the individual's use of his God-given free will, whence derived his right to be free from the restrictions of arbitrary force. Point 1. 2. That liberty is indivisible and that political freedom cannot long exist without economic freedom. 3. The purpose of government is to protect those freedoms through the preservation of an internal order, the provision of natural defense, and the administration of justice. 4. That the Constitution of the United States is the best arrangement yet devised for empowering government to fulfill its proper role while restraining it from concentration and abuse of power. Sorry. I had to take a breath there. That the market economy allocating resources by the free play of supply and demand is the single economic system compatible with the requirements of personal freedom and constitutional government, and that it is at the same time the most productive supplier of human needs. I agree with that. Free market.
I disagree with most of that, actually.
Well, that's also why we don't consider you the conservative in the room.
Yeah.
American foreign policy must be judged by this criteria. Does it serve the just interest of the United States? Agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, see, we're not here to argue the points of whether or not they're right in what they say, but we're here to point out, like, an understanding of the root of the party. Like, we know their extremities, and we know that both of these parties have started to lean towards their extremities more so than even either of their core values.
You know what? I think this is really core values for just about every person on the face of the planet as I read this now, again, in my head.
Well, yeah, but you're also coming from a conservative mindset too, so
Yeah,
it makes a lot. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to you because you lean to those values as your own. Where somebody who doesn't, this is where you don't understand her.
Well, yeah,
because to her that sounds a little fanatical and overbearing.
Yeah, well, J7, how is it psychotical? Is that the word you used?
Well, a lot of it is like colonialist and elitist and assumes that one system of government is the ideal under every circumstance. And it just sounds like as entitled as I would expect people from the 1700s to be.
I just don't understand what points you don't agree with. I mean,
okay,
okay.
Let's start with number one.
Yes.
The foremost among the transcendent values is the individual's use of his God-given free will.
His God-given
The foremost amongst the transcendent values is that the individual's use of his God-given free will, whence derived his rights to be free from restrictions of arbitrary force. So it's your God-given right to use your brain to think, and you shouldn't be held down by restrictions of any kind of arbitrary force. That's the Second Amendment.
The case, then we shouldn't have laws. You should just do whatever you want, right?
No,
because it's your God-given free will. And by the way, it doesn't include women. It's his God-given free will.
Oh, don't be a fucking Nancy Pelosi right now.
I'm just saying, as written, it sounds crazy.
Yeah, but again, J7, take the he, she, him, her, they, them out of it.
That didn't exist in 1700.
Take what was written then and apply it to today.
Okay, so let's
take the
assume
core
that
of the
by
statement.
his God-given free will, we're talking about
people.
A
people.
human being's
Your
God-given free will.
free will to
Yeah.
be a free thinker. And
Okay.
not be held down by restrictions of arbitrary force.
Arbitrary.
What is
Arbitrary.
arbitrary force?
I
What
don't
is
know.
it?
Unreasonable.
Unreasonable.
Who
All right.
defines what unreasonable is?
What, telling
We,
you
the
that,
people, according to our Constitution,
Yeah.
are able to govern ourselves under these inalienable rights.
Okay. I
don't- I-
fundamentally I agree with that.
Okay,
I
that's
feel
that's
like-
kind of where we're
yeah.
trying to where we're trying to get this.
Yeah.
We want understanding, maybe not an absolute agreement, but we want understanding of what the terminology is, and a lot of this stuff, because it has been written so long ago, we will have to translate and update to some modern terminology and understanding of each of these statements.
Okay.
The second point being made,
Because some of these are overwritten by authors and lawyers.
true that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely true. The second statement is again a two-parter. I believe in the first part, and not so sure if I agree with the second part yet. And it is that liberty is indivisible, comma,
Okay.
and that political freedom cannot long exist without economic freedom. Now, I agree to disagree with that because I don't understand the writing of it. Is it the political freedom can't exist without economic freedom for the people, or is that for the country? Because if it's for the
Yeah.
country, then yes, political freedom cannot exist without economic freedom. We need to be economically independent as a country to have political freedom. Otherwise, we'll just be at the tyranny of somebody else who wants to take control of us.
Yeah.
I agree with that point, but I don't agree with it from an individual standpoint. That your political freedom can't exist unless you're economically freedom. I mean, would you got to be wealthy to have a political voice? So I'm thinking that's more soared towards the country view than it is the individual view.
Well,
Yeah.
as conservatism as a national party line, that's what we would be discussing would be the country's best direction, right?
See, I'm educated. You people think I'm stupid. Sometimes I'm smart. Okay, good. That's what I thought.
Well, no, we're now this could
No,
just
no,
be
no, that's
opinions.
fine.
This could just be us having an opinion
Sure.
about how this is stated. We could just be catering it to ourselves. So.
Well, what leads me
Okay,
to believe it's from a
so-
country standpoint is the fact that the opening statement is that liberty is indivisible.
Yes, and
That is-
that I agree with liberty being indivisible. I'm a little shaky on the economic freedom part because it, like you said, Webb, it kind of implies that you got to be like some crazy landowner or like
I
own a
gotta be
plantation.
rich to have my
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to have wealth to have political power, which is what a lot of people
Right.
truly believe nowadays. Outside
which-
looking in, is that the only people who have political power are people of wealth. So,
Right, and okay, so that part,
You get
that's
pol-
why I said earlier that it sounds elitist because it assumes that your liberty is intrinsically tied to your economic status.
right. The
Right,
statement
that's
in
what-
itself does, which is also which I could understand how an opposing party would address that situation as such, that
Yeah.
you're seemingly saying that you're a party of wealth and that power should only be spread amongst the wealthy.
Right.
So if point number 2 is written from the preface of for the people, I disagree with it. If it's written from the preface of the country, then yeah, I'm behind it.
Yeah, because
I-
we shouldn't be influenced by other countries that don't allow us to just run our own shit.
Right.
So
And that's why
our
we're
political and financial freedom should not be tied to being financially obligated to another country, so that we don't have to be politically obligated to another country.
Yes.
I feel like if that was what was being said, like we should be economically independent as a country, then that was poorly written because that's not how it sounds.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, that's why even Webb reading it had to battle for his own conservatism of going, well, I don't understand how this works this way if it's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
this way, and then I get it if it works this way. So yeah, you're right. It's very poorly written, considering a conservative even goes, I don't know, maybe. You know, so okay, so we've definitely found maybe a little fault, and that's why I also highlighted the fact that these were definitely written by like authors and lawyers. These are not statements that were
Fucking
so much
poets,
written Yeah, so much. These were people who wanted to use words and hadn't got to use them in another sentence before.
You're right, and then
Yeah.
and they were also the same people trying to break away from the old English to new English.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that fucked more shit up. Point 3, that the purpose of government is to protect those freedoms through the preservation of internal order, the provision of national defense, and the administration of justice.
That makes it sound like we're some kind of police state.
Yeah, but we kind of we do run our like and have for the longest period of time kind of ran our country that way. So it is a very there needs to be rules, there needs to be people to enforce them, and they need to be maintained.
Right. I think how that should be thought about is the breakdown of the points that are made based on the commas. Okay.
Okay.
Those freedoms through the preservation of internal order. That's your checks and balances, your ways and means, your AKA internal affairs.
They believe that the government should have a
way
list
to
of
check
checks and
itself.
a list of checks and balances that applies
Right.
to all factions and parties.
Of just the government, the internal order, checks and balances on themselves. Second is the provision of national defense, which means we need to have some way to protect ourselves in this country.
Right. We have a military. Right.
And the third would be and the administration of justice, which would be our courts and law system. Yes, that includes the police.
Okay.
So I think that's supposed to be read.
So how does it start? How does it start? It starts
that the purpose of government is to protect those freedoms through the preservation of internal order, the provision of national defense, and the administration of justice.
Right. I feel like the purpose of government should include more than that.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much how we're set up as a country. We have our government, and they have their checks and balances. We have national defense, thanks to taxpayer money and the government. And we have
justice.
Well, I didn't want to say just the word justice because
right. Or we have a justice system.
Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow these days.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out how fucking tough it is in the coming days with a certain trial that's starting. We'll find out. But yeah, so yeah, that's basically the 3 tiers. Well, not the 3 tiers.
Didn't they pause jury selection on that certain trial though?
Yeah, and I think they restarted it back up.
Have they resumed?
Okay. Yeah, I think it started back
up. Because I'm not really following it too closely.
Me neither.
I'm really trying to separate myself from a lot of 2020s toxicity. Like I want to be able to move on, and like I said, after watching 5 Came Back, I'm like the understanding of the other side.
Yeah,
I'm over the speculations of things. I'd like to just be able to come out the other side and see what this is really going to be like.
Yep.
I just want to be able to move on instead of trapped in the same rut.
Yeah, there are a lot of things we will not be talking about. That whole case will be one of them. We will not be talking about. We may talk about the outcome of it.
Yeah.
And how we feel about it.
According to the impact of it, yeah.
Right. We could be fucking standing up on these places we sit at cheering, or that day we might not be doing a show because we might be out there trying to burn a fucking town down.
God, I hope not.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the outcome of that whole thing should be or shouldn't be, and I don't really want to talk about it.
I'm gonna let the jury make the decision, and I hope that everything. I hope it's not another situation like the other one where things are eliminated from the table. I want it to be open, free justice.
Yep.
Point number 4 that I would just preference right up front, I totally agree with, states that the Constitution of the United States is the best arrangement yet devised for empowering government to fulfill its proper role, comma, while restraining it from concentration and abuse of power.
Which means containing government before it becomes big government.
Right, which means the Constitution of the people, for the people, by the people is the best way to corral our government to do its fucking job and not overstep its bounds.
But that also relies on a person's given right to and ability and willingness to keep that check in place.
Yes.
I think that the phrasing is very odd. The phrasing that it's the best, I guess, mechanism yet.
But you got to put yourself in 1750.
Yeah. See, if we're gonna debate phrasing on all of them, though, like we know that this is poorly written for a now conversation.
For 2021 conversation, sure. This is like it's like we're trying to read fucking legal document.
Well, I guess what bothers me about it is the arrogance of it. It's
that was kind of my feelings about Cuomo when he spoke about how highly New York should be regarded in the whole fucking U.S. environment.
Number 6, bitch.
Sure.
Number 6, bitch. Step the fuck down, asshole.
Oh yeah, and he said by no uncertain terms.
He was like, "Huh, nah."
Yeah. I mean, I applaud the man for his gumption.
Yep.
I mean, he's definitely.
That's one bitch for every day of the week, and you are now totally treading on fucking Jello fucking dude. Okay.
He is a hard-nosed, staunch supporter of himself. I will tell you that.
I don't think any of us disagree with that. 4 is the proper thing. Yes, the wording may be poor. I get that.
Wording's poor, but the general idea, which is what we were going to discuss on it.
Constitution is the Constitution. It's what rules it's what governs the land.
Yes, I agree. The Constitution is.
Yeah, we can make changes to it to update it. We've done that.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that quite a few times. But it's the law of the land. End of story. That's.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the founding of the country and was left with a bridge of possibility to update for the future. So yeah, it wasn't written as the perfect document, but it was wrote so that it could become a better document over time.
The next point, I think, is actually fucking pretty brilliant, considering that these points come from 17-something. Okay, and this is the one about the economy and the markets. That the market economy allocating resources by the free play of supply and demand is the single economic system compatible with the requirements of personal freedom and constitutional government, and that it is at the same time the most productive supplier of human need.
I disagree with that.
Supply and demand.
Yeah, if you assume that it can't be manipulated, but we know that's not true.
And we know at the time period it was being greatly manipulated, that the free market under this time period of when it was written was very monopolistic.
And back to point.
It really wasn't a free market then. It was a trade market. People were still trading shit.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's what makes the statement so invalid, is because the free market of the time period was not that.
Right. I think it was more forward-looking of like, all right, an economical system needs to take place, and it needs to be run by supply and demand, and that's what's going to keep the country moving forward. And that's exactly what has happened over time. If it wasn't for the supply and demand, you'd be sitting with a fucking warehouse of washing machines from 1920 because somebody made 44 billion of them instead of just making 12,000. You need a supply and demand market.
That's true, but the system of it, the idea that the system of supply and demand is impervious to manipulation is not right. It has been manipulated over and over again.
Surpluses have been made and hidden and dropped into markets.
Because we a lot of it's based on an economic plan. Also, I mean.
Okay, so then that's not a good system. It's flawed fundamentally.
Sure. So is the entire idea of a stock market that drives our economy. It's totally a flawed theory. It always has been.
Right.
Okay. So where's the
Supply and
so
demand
but
factor of it is what made it work. You can't have more supply than demand.
right, no, that's true in
Beautiful.
theory.
No, that's what
but
makes economics work.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, economics, yes.
But
And I think that's
that's not
what this statement is making is this is the outline of an economic plan that we need a free market and that free market is going to be the most productive supplier of all well, not I don't want to say all, most productive supplier of human needs.
But it's not.
Okay, well, yes and no, it's not. Because if it wasn't for supply and demand, you'd need an acre of land to grow your crops so you could eat every day. You'd need
I'm
another
not
plot of-
following that.
but you need another because without supply and demand, who's making the food? Nobody. Make it for yourself, motherfucker.
I
Right?
mean,
yeah, there's not a ready supply for you to
Yeah.
acquire.
So now you got to have, at least a fucking acre of land plus your house. So
I
you
mean,
can
I'm not
constantly-
saying that supply and demand as an economic theory is not a good one. I'm saying that the actual practice of it in the United States doesn't really function that way.
I have the distinctive feeling that you have a lot of socialism thoughts and tendencies. That you think a one world economy would be the best for all, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that because I think that there's some parts of socialism that could be good.
Well, now socialism and a one world economy are two different conversations, though, and I could make the note that society globally is at a point that a global economy that is based in one system wouldn't necessarily be the worst of ideas. But
No, I
to
don't.
say that that idea should be socialism is not tied to that
Right.
statement.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that I think you summed it up really nicely, Thump. Like I think that a global economy and the regulation of it in some way would
be
a good
unified.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
but I
should be
don't know
unified
that
and is a good thing.
Take the
Yeah.
world's wealth and spread it around. No more billionaires. Everybody is equal. Everybody
No,
gets
see
the same.
that's applying
no,
social.
that's-
No, that's applying socialism to the world economy. That's not what we're saying.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I don't
but
think
but
that-
that same open and free market that you speak of conservatively
Sure.
should be under that one governance to where it's all the same instead of the multiple manipulations that we see coming in from how China runs their economy, global chip
Right.
shortage,
right.
and how Africa runs its economy, blood diamonds.
Right.
And
Right.
how Venezuela runs its country.
Do they run it?
Labeled like underlabored oil flood markets.
Yeah. Do they even
I
have
mean,
a fuck?
but we
run?
could point out
No.
the flaws in all of these things, and if there was an oversight committee to say that you're affecting the economy, the global economy, in a
Sure,
way that
world
is a negative to this entire establishment. If we had a global source of recognition that said this is the way we handle things, then that would be better. I'm not saying that
Yep.
billionaires don't need to exist. I'm not
Right.
talking communism or socialism or fascism. I'm still applying due democratic process and free market economy to the overall process of a global market.
Definitely will.
I think that I agree with all of that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's actually where I would draw the line. Like I think a global system would be good. I don't think that redistribution of wealth or anything like that is the way to do it.
No, redistribution of wealth is a bad idea. That's just going to make more people hate more people. It's a bad idea.
Well, yeah, I think it causes a lot more bitterness than people
Sure.
like it. No, somebody who uses that as an idea isn't thinking about what that honestly looks like on the other side,
Yeah.
because there's a
Mhm.
lot of animosity from the ones that have had it taken, and there's a lack of respect from the ones that have been given.
Mm-hmm.
And those two things are high in negatives when you talk about especially financial well-being in a society.
Has
Right.
anybody read Johnny's comments in chat?
No,
No, I have.
No.
I am sorry. I've been in my own head
So
listening to what's going on.
Johnny's comments 8 minutes ago was too late for that. I wish I
Yeah,
had a reference to that.
Yeah.
His comment 25 minutes ago was conservatives want to limit choices of purple that are not themselves. Liberals wish to use everyone else's money to pay for everyone else's needs.
That's a
And
problem.
then he made a comment of that's very libertarian.
Yeah. The last point on this list, and I can't not disagree with this one, and I think this was a perfect Trumpyism right here, that American, and I did not trust this foreign policy, that American foreign policy must be judged by this criteria, colon, does it serve the just interests of the United States?
Well, that's nationalism.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what you want. I mean,
Yeah,
look
well,
at all
no, that's
the
what
bad
I'm saying.
deals.
From the conservative side of it, though,
nationalism.
that's essentially saying the conservatives support and believe in nationalism.
Yeah. See, now what I find most
Where-
interesting go ahead, sorry.
Where our last comment, though, with what we were talking about in the last bit of this about how the world market, that makes that last statement hard to do when we're no longer trying to just better ourselves. We're aware that we are more than just us. So I understand that we need to make sure that America is also taken care of in these investments and endeavors, but it's not the sole recognition to make sure that America is well taken care of in these endeavors.
Okay, that's a good way of putting that. Okay, that's definitely puts food for thought in my head. I can't disagree with that. Yeah.
You know, this is part of the evolution of our society, and where these 1717 comments versus 2021 comments need to vary, because the conversation should have evolved to a point to where the normal person on every street in the world, when we get together and talk in Twitch, when we get together and talk over whatever platform that we talk over, there are some unifying ideas.
Sure.
That everybody agrees to. When you travel abroad and you go to another country, you don't go with the pretense of this place is whatever, I'm American anymore. Right. You go, man, I can't wait to hang out with, my buds that I know online. And I'm friends with people from Germany. I'm friends with people from, the Czech Republic. I'm friends with people from Australia. The U.S. first policy is a U.S. first idea, but I don't think it stands to have the same sort of place that it once it did. Because when we were a country that was just trying to gain our own ground and just trying to become independent, then yeah, I guess that was necessary for them to do that.
Right.
But
exactly.
In a market where we're trying to move goods and services all across this planet, I don't think that making it only good for one company is the right way to do that. I think a board meeting needs to be held amongst all the countries and a vote passed amongst their stockholders to say that my corporation wants to just be at the table with you.
Right, exactly. I think, in 1776 or whenever, when we were trying to establish ourselves as independent and separate from all these other interests,
right, break away
or specifically England, right?
Yeah,
it made sense that we were like, no, we're going to serve our interests first, because they wanted the complete opposite. They were saying, well, how about you send us over a bunch of money? Because essentially,
when you really think about it, the United States of America was formed by a bunch of people who thrown the fuck out of England, get the fuck out of this country. We don't want you here. And go find a new fucking place to live. Oh, and by the way, when you get there, we'll still control you.
Yeah, we're still collecting our taxes. You're still a citizen of this nation But
That's slavery to me. If you really want to fucking slice it down the middle somewhere between whatever hairs.
would that be what do we go to indentured servitude at that point
That
to a
was
degree? It was kind of
indentured.
paying off a debt
Yep.
because
Indentured servitude,
because
yes.
the country paid for your travel. Yeah, the country paid for your voyage to the new land. Now you
Yep.
owe us for your trip, which is
That's
what we
right.
see in the modern slave trade out of Asia.
Grow tobacco and send it back to fucking England.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that was a very that you guys are saying it in jest, but that was actually
Truth.
very popular at the
Yeah.
time.
Right.
That's what happened. There was like indentured servitude where
Right.
you're
Yes.
pretty much
That's what I said.
money.
Thumb hit it right
Yeah.
on the fucking head with that one. He's on fire.
Well, you look at the other penal colony. We weren't necessarily a penal colony, but we were a house full of rejects. And then
Right,
you look
yeah.
at the penal colony, Australia,
Australia.
like another house full of rejects. Like their approach to society as a whole right now is actually pretty good.
Yes.
The way they've handled this past year and worked on their stuff and
Yeah.
kind of kept the market flowing for themselves, so to speak, where they shut down shit, but they really didn't shut
They
all the
survived.
doors.
Yeah. They survived.
They have a lot of, and our fight is kind of the same. We share a lot of common interest with what they do and what we do because we all want people to make decisions for themselves and we want people to be able to control their own lives. And we don't want anybody else to be able to infringe upon their ability to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
Those
True.
are like core values for each of these nations who, by one mean or another, found themselves trying to separate from Great Britain or France or Spain because these were the
Right.
only three countries that were really doing things at the times that these two countries came into their own rights.
Right. So I think as it relates to how things are today, I don't really think that us being alone at the table makes any sense. You know, if we're going to have a global economy and we want to have trade and we want to have, you know, a global society, then just saying that we're out for ourselves essentially, I don't think is a good philosophy.
Well, it shuts the
But aren't
door
you-
on a
Aren't you forced into
unified
that
world
situation?
conversation.
You're forced into that situation. The point we brought up about this list of the 6 key features here.
Well,
and
this
I
was
think-
understanding conservatism in the eyes
And I-
of a person who
and I think
doesn't
what we all learned
recognize
here
what
is-
conservatives are.
Right. And I wasn't so sure either because I don't give a fuck about labels. I could call me what you want. I'm gonna call myself what I am, and that's that.
Yeah, well, we were
but-
discussing the labels themselves. So
But what I find interesting here is I don't think there is a human being on the face of the fucking planet. Well, let's rephrase that. A human being on the inside the United States of America and whatever fucking surrounding properties who doesn't believe in all of these factors here. That
well,
doesn't.
But
we've had a reasonable bit of
Yeah.
of debate over the fact that most of this has
free market
has a
thing,
place and
Yeah.
had a place, but it may not still stand true in some of these scenarios.
I think 2 of these I don't agree with. I think the foreign policy. I think I don't agree. Yes, it should serve the interests of the country you're fucking lobbying for, but there needs to be some give and take.
it should not solely
right.
be the
Yeah, so
interest.
the biggest problem there, and looking at foreign policy is every other country always wants more than what you want to give. Like,
Well,
where's
that's what
the give-
negotiations are. Like
And-
usually,
Yeah, but
you
for the
know,
last
like-
Yeah, but there's
years,
there's
the
there's
United
good
States
argument
is
to be
saying,
made.
"Okay, you can have what you want."
There's good argument to be made that Trump was right on the amount of money that our country pays in versus what others pay in,
fuck yeah.
in the Paris Accord, and as far as how the discussions are taken at NAFTA. And yeah, there's reasonable suspicion to say that we were footing a greater bill, that the negotiations that were made were not anywhere remotely close to any greater interest for our country, and other people kind of took advantage of us. And there's a good argument to be made for that if you really look at how the policy shaped out and the gross national product of all of these other countries that were essentially paying like 1%, where we're paying like 21%.
6. Yeah, whatever it was.
Well, I'm just throwing out numbers. I'm not giving any I'm not giving any factuals here. I'm saying the absurdity of it was really noticeable if you looked at what was being done.
I agree with that, but I think that the solution to that problem was we walked away from the table. We were just like, you know what, F it.
Yeah, and that was a gross mishandling where maybe we should.
The other countries do the same thing.
But maybe we should have pulled back the curtain on it a little bit and did exactly like what they did for the which I think was actually a time waster on our government's behalf, but do what they did with the stimulation program and flip that. Where they were like, guess what? We're going to spend the next couple of days just reading this out loud.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. That was crazy.
And I was like, wait.
Yeah.
What are you about to do? And so, but I agree that maybe that's what we should have done when we talk about the Paris Accord and when we talk about NAFTA. Like, we needed to reopen that door. We needed to revisit the idea. We needed the nuclear program with Iran, like our nuclear accord. Like, all of these things needed to be revisited and needed to be rebalanced.
I will say this, okay? Sometimes it's crazy. A lot of people bitched about, now the Republicans are going to take 2 days to read the fucking bill. You know what? Sometimes when you hear shit come out of somebody else's mouth that was your ideas, you realize just how fucking stupid it sounded. And the point made with all of that was what happened when that bill went to the Senate. It was rewritten again to pull out the stupidity in it to make it more poignant. Which now the House
don't we got a boogie?
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we're gonna boogie. Yeah. All right. Parting notes. Wednesdays.
See y'all
7 to 9 p.m. Wednesday, 7 to 9 p.m. If you haven't filed your tax returns yet and you collected unemployment, don't file them yet. Wait for the new announcements. Do not file if you collected unemployment.
Okay.
Just chill.
Goodbye.
Tuesday. We're out. See you. Thursday. No, we doing Thursday? Or we not?
I think we need the time to get ready for.
Yeah, we're going to prepare for next Wednesday.
See you next Wednesday. That sounds so fucking weird. See you next Wednesday.
That sounds so weird. See you later.
We're out.